we want people to be entertained, obviously, but we also don't want people to go date Steven. So that sums it up.
Today I've got with me Emma Roberts and Kara Price to talk about Hulu's new show, Tell Me Lies. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. I'm super excited to talk about the show with both of you. Fantastic book, even better show, if I may say so myself.
Wow. The biggest compliment to ever be given, honestly.
I know. Well, I am curious to hear from both of you what it was about this story that really had you interested in adapting it into the television show.
Yeah, I mean, I think it came to us via another producer who's the producer on this show, Laura Lewis, and she basically was like, I've never read something that was so true to a toxic relationship that I had. And, after I read it, I agreed, but I also thought it was just a very unique perspective in that it showed both perspectives very kind of unapologetically. And I think that I have not seen that on TV necessarily. And so Emma read it and really agreed, I think. And, we just wanted to bring something that was not apologizing for the kind of truth of the matter to the screen, even if, some of the stuff that these characters do to each other is really awful.
Realistic, though.
Yes.
The realism of the characters really struck me. Can each of you tell me a little bit about what you were looking for, especially in looking for your Lucy and your Steven, and how you got to where we are?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was all about Lucy. Like, we're like, there's no other conversation to be had until we find our Lucy. And Grace Van Patten was the first name that kept coming up for everyone. And it was a real unanimous, yes, this is the girl. And she, said yes. And it was such a just win. And then we had to, obviously find our Steven, which was obviously more complex because it was who are we going to fall in love with, but also believe is not a good guy and all the other things that Steven is. And of course, ironically, we got the best human, Jackson White. I feel like always the nicest guys play the best bad guys. But he came in, and him and Grace together, it was just, we were like, there they are, and it's kind of something. I feel like the best casting choices in my experience are things that are just felt. You can look on paper all day long who's right for something, but really when you see it, and that's kind of how I feel about this whole cast. And there's no one that I don't think is absolutely above and beyond perfect for each role. So we got really lucky, and it was a joy to get to just, see it all kind of come together. Their chemistry, everyone's chemistry is just so perfect.
It really is. And you have a lot of up and coming actors part of the project who are so talented. Was that something that was kind of on purpose, or is that just how things shook out in the casting process?
I think I think Grace has obviously been in a ton already, and Jackson had been on Mrs. Fletcher, which is where we first saw him. But I think what was really important for this show is that none of these people were recognizable. And a huge part of the reason that Emma was not, that none of these people were someone playing Lucy Albright or someone playing, Pippa, and that they really embody these characters, because I think the show's success hinges upon the sort of realism of each of the characters. And if anybody was too recognizable, I think it would sort of take away from the fact that they're college freshmen or college sophomores or college juniors, So I think it was important that everyone was sort of anonymous in their own right so that they could really embody the character.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there's obviously so many themes that are so true to so many people. Is there anything that each of you want viewers at home to take away from watching this show?
I mean, I think we've been saying this, I think that we want people to be entertained, obviously, but, we also don't want people to go date Steven. So I think that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah. A nice PSA. What about you, Kara?
Without being a PSA, but yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that I hope this show does is it allows people to speak honestly about relationships they're in or that they have been in, because what are we so afraid of? Afraid of other people's criticism or judgment, or, and I think part of the tragic misunderstanding of Lucy and Steven's relationship, but also the entire friend group, is that like they can't just say the way things are. There's too much weight behind all of it. And I think even in my friend groups, if we were just more honest about things, like there might not be so much like blocking emotional connection. And so, yeah, it's like a weird thing to say that a show about like a very sexy, toxic college romance would say more about the things we keep from each other. But I do think the show does a good job of balancing like the emotional weight and also just like the bingeability and addictiveness of a show like this. So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for talking with me. I can't wait for everyone to see the show. I'm super excited to talk to you today about the new show, Tell Me Lies. Thanks so much for spending time with me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm excited.
And me too. Now, first of all, I'm very curious what it is about the story of Tell Me Lies that really interested you when it came to adapting it.
Yeah, I think just the visceral feeling that I had when I read the book, the obsessive love and toxic relationships are something I've always been really interested in. And I think it's so relatable. We've all had those relationships that leave us, not the best version of ourselves. And that just the addictiveness, the way you can get addicted to another person. So I just love writing about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're reading the book for the first time, you're saying, it's this kind of like visceral feeling. Was there anything about the book, other than obviously, the plot, the characters, that you really wanted to bring into the television show?
Yeah, I think the one thing I thought was really interesting about the book is that it wasn't like Stephen presented himself as this Prince Charming with no flaws. There were red flags immediately, and Lucy ignored them. And I think that is so realistic. I think that it's not like we're always just blindsided. We see the red flags, but something in us makes us ignore those red flags. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to play with, and we keep asking, like, why is she doing this? Why? And it's like, well, yeah, that's why, why do any of us do this? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Very realistic, well fleshed out characters, I feel like.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and Grace and Jackson were perfectly cast. Can you tell me a little bit about finding your Lucy and your Steven and making them so perfect?
Yeah. So it was much harder to cast Steven than Lucy. We cast Grace. We did a read with very few actresses. We had about 6 girls read in one day, and everyone was wonderful, but Grace was just, it was like, this is the person that I want to watch every day. And she's just so unbelievably talented. And so we ended up having her approved that night, which is very quick. Everyone signed up on her immediately. Steven is such a polarizing character because he has to be so many things at once, and he has to do all these bad things, but you have to still want to watch him and not completely hate him. And when Jackson, he sent in this utterly bizarre self-tape that was so great, and the weirdest self-tape I've ever seen. And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this guy is so confident. Like, who else could play Steven? But it ended up, we saw a lot of guys, there are a lot of people who have to approve every casting decision. And we just really wanted to make sure we found the right person. And so we did months of searching for Steven, but I always knew that it was Jackson. And so I was like so happy when we got to cast him. It was a joyful day.
Yeah. Well, it all came down to that tape. What was so odd about it?
Oh my God. You should ask him about it. First of all, he had like The Cure playing in the background.
Okay. Very Steven.
Together, like a little mini movie. He would cut out of a scene and do some weird improvising and then go back into the scene. It was just very weird. It was very bold. It was a very bold choice. It would have gone terribly wrong, but it worked completely. And at the very least, I was like, I have to meet this person who sent this, but it was awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and with so many themes and so many different threads kind of going throughout the story, is there anything that you want people who are watching to take away from it or to bring out with them?
I think if anything, just being less hard on other people and on ourselves about the choices we make in relationships. I don't mean when we're cruel or bad or do anything that, like maybe Steven does, but the times when we accept bad behavior and the behavior that might be considered like desperate or weak, that we make fun of. I think we're all capable of being in that situation where we completely allow ourselves to be belittled. And so I hope we open up conversations that are less judgmental about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I hope people relate to the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for everyone to watch it. Thank you so much for taking time and talking with me today. I appreciate it. I'm Anna Rumer with PopCulture. Today I've got with me Sonia Manna, Catherine Missel, and Alicia Crowder to talk all about Hulu's new show, Tell Me What Lies. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, first off, I would love to hear how everyone kind of came to this story, how they got drawn into these characters. Sonia, if you want to start first.
Yeah, I think when I first read the breakdown of Pippa, I heard a lot of myself in it. We're very different, but the core of her, I heard a lot, and I don't often see that, and so I was immediately really excited to see that kind of character on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Catherine?
I really like the era that it's set in. It's in, a really interesting time period. So random, but it was really fun to like kind of dive into this like weird culture.
It was a weird time in culture. What about you, Alicia?
I would say just like how realistic and raw everything is. Like, like there are a lot of sharp edges and like messiness, which I really appreciate because I think it really reflects real life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously there's this kind of toxic entanglement at the core of the story. And then there's a lot of other dark stuff going on. How was it that you found yourselves kind of playing into these themes? Did you take anything away from it? Anyone?
I would say like to trust your gut, I feel like that's something that I took away from this. And to trust your gut.
I think for Pippa's journey through it is a lot of similar to trust your gut, is a lot of her learning how to be herself. And in the process, I found that happening. It was such we shot over 6 months, and it was such a wonderful and crazy experience. And I think I felt myself growing and learning more about myself in similar ways as well.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like, I feel like I learned a lot on set. Just also, everyone is so talented in the cast. So just being on set in general, I just was like, just learning a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It does seem like everyone really formed this camaraderie. I've seen the behind the scenes pictures and everyone else is, joking around with one another. Does anyone have a favorite memory of being on set that they wanted to share?
For Brandon's birthday, Jackson bought some fireworks and we like set them off. That was really fun. And we rented out like an entire movie theater and watched like Jackass 4, which was just like, and it was like the first week that we met each other, but that was like also a really, really cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this show about to formally premiere and everyone getting to watch it, is there anything that you hope that viewers will see in your performance? If you want to start first, Catherine.
Yeah, definitely. I think reading it, I could relate a lot. And I was proud of like being a part of something where someone might see themselves in the situations that we're all going through and dealing with. So I think that's just something that I'm really excited for people to be able to relate.
I would say I hope that they see authenticity. Like, I think that that's really important. And like Kat said, I hope that they see themselves or, oh, like that's my sister or that's my best friend,
Yeah, I think also as you get to know these characters, you kind of realize how much everybody is hiding. And so I hope that in addition to what you guys said, it also just gives you a window into maybe somebody that you've met that you're like, what is their deal? And you start to think about maybe what are all the things that they have happening underneath the surface, fueling that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't wait for everyone to see the show when it premieres, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about it. Today, I have with me Brandon Cook, Benjamin Wadworth, and Spencer House to talk all about Hulu's new show, Tell Me Lies. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
Well, first, can we talk a little bit about what it was that drew each of you to the story, to your characters? Brandon, if you want to go first.
Sure. I think I have not seen a character that looks like me and acts like Evan on screen, so that was very attractive to me. And I think I can relate to Evan in a lot of different ways, so it wasn't too hard to get in, except for the money bit. I'm not quite as rich as him, but
not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, so
awesome. Benjamin, what about you?
Character has sad boy vibes. I'm in for the ride.
100%. What about you, Spencer?
I thought really seemed like a really well-rounded character, and I think in the last chunk of years, his type of character hasn't really been that well-rounded. It's been a lot of it's kind of like judgment on it, or they're like a placeholder for some sort of villain, and so playing him was good.
Yeah. Well, we can already see the brother vibes here in the chat. How was that for both of you, kind of developing that dynamic on and off screen?
Close to impossible. It's been one of the hardest tasks of my career.
It's a lot of having to talk to producers to make sure that Spencer's prepared for work and just at least have your lines memorized.
There are different sides.
They paid us, so we work.
I was right by the camera with his lines on a board right here, so you can read it.
It's true.
That's a true friend.
Specifically asked for Brandon's chest to have my lines.
Absolutely. I mean, come on. That does seem like it's a lot of fun backstage. I've seen pictures on Instagram and stuff like that. It seems like everyone's kind of having a good time goofing off. Does anyone have a favorite behind the scenes story that they wanted to share?
Spencer has a fascination with Old Yeller. And towards the end of the shoot, there were a lot of singing and songs and remembrance. He had some type of special connection. Would you like to talk about that, Spencer?
Yeah, Spencer's he's a great opera singer.
Yeah.
Well, no. Old Yeller came up towards the end because we were talking about how children's movies used to be so dark, and Old Yeller, he blows his dog's head off, and that was a crazy end, and so we just started singing the song joyfully with that in mind.
As you do.
Remembrance.
I was hoping that no one was going to take you out back, or you were trying to take someone else out back and reenact Old Yeller. I didn't know where that was going.
Yeah,
we tried. They would let us.
Definitely tried. Yeah.
Well, when this story is kind of dark at times, and there's obviously a lot to be taken away from it. Was there anything that any of you kind of hope that audiences who are watching will take away from the show?
It's really almost an examination of what not to do at times and what to look out for. And it's not glorifying it, but it's kind of showing the reality of what people tend to get into in college at times. And I hope people understand that it's not glorifying it, but are able to see the signs or see, what not to do at times.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. I can't wait for everyone to see Tell Me Lies.